There we go. Yeah, I'll move this over. There you go. All right, good deal. Okay, thank you. I've got the mic on. Can y'all hear? No? Up a little bit higher. Okay, now talk. All right, is that better? No.
It turned to the right.
Well, that isn't gonna happen. I look around a lot. Okay, can y'all hear?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. All right, I have got 85 plants and I don't quite have an hour. 60 minutes, 85 plants. So I'm gonna go fast. I'm sorry, we can't take questions until I do them all. If I can get through them fast enough, we can have questions. So just setting up what we're going to be doing. So this is what we're going to have at our plant sale. We're going to start with trees. We will have, and let me explain. You see in the upper left-hand corner, it says Edwards Plateau, Southern Texas Plains, Native Habitat Canyons. This is going to be on every slide, and there's a reason. Part of this we already have on our plant sale signs. If you know the ecoregion that a plant comes from, you're going to know the kind of things it likes. It will tell you how much rain, what kind of soil. So it'll give you a better idea of where you can plant it and be successful. So I'm going to put these on every one of them. And you're going to see more than just Edwards Plateau and Southern Texas Plains. Edwards Plateau, you know where it is. Southern Texas Plains, it runs kind of down the Rio Grande River, down into far South Texas. It's a ribbon that goes down that area. You'll also see the Chihuahuan Desert, which is out West Texas. Also see Texas marshes and coastal something, I don't remember the exact term. That's running right along the coastline, but it's the southern part, down more the Corpus area down. So that's what you're going to see. So when you see these ecoregions, that's what you're going to see. You'll also see where does it grow. This particular plant grows in canyons, which means it's sheltered. And it is in the South Texas Plains and the Edwards Plateau. I have one in my yard. If you go a little further north, they can freeze. So that's one of the problems because it's used to a canyon, which is more protected. So it's a small tree, gets about 6 to 12 feet tall and wide. It has lovely white blooms on it. Doesn't need a lot of water. You can tell that from where it grows. Doesn't need a ton. It blooms in the spring and it will attract birds and butterflies. If you're into getting rid of crepe myrtles like I am, one of my least favorite plants, this is a good substitute. The desert willow, Chihuahuan Deserts, Edwards Plateau, Southern Texas Plains. It grows in grasslands, so it's going to want sun. And it does love the sun. That's one of the things that makes it go. Also low water usage. It grows fairly fast. What's interesting is it comes in lots of different colors. So if you grow it from seed, the seed does not necessarily come back true to the mama plant. So you don't know. If you have bought Bubba, which is put out by A&M, guess what color it is? They do cuttings. That's the only way you can ensure it'll come back correctly. It is a good tree in the environment. It gets butterflies, birds, nectar, insects, moths, hummingbirds, and bees. So it's a really good wildlife plant. It also has light shade, so you can grow things underneath it, which is kind of nice. The hackberry, the tree everybody loves to hate, along with cedar. But this is one of the best, one of the best bird trees around. It's stellar. The main problem with it is its limbs tend to fall off. And you don't want to plant it next to your house or your fence because it might cause damage. But other than that, it's a great tree. Grows fast. It can grow in sun or part shade. Doesn't have to have a ton of water, up to medium sometimes. It's not particular about what kind of soil. So it's an easy to grow tree. And I think a lot of people hate it because the birds eat the seeds and plant them. So the little seedlings are coming up everywhere. But if you get them small, they come out easy. The Mexican plum, an early bloomer. This is one of the first trees that blooms in the spring. And the blooms are fragrant. Personally, I think they smell like, this thing is, can't touch it. I think they smell like corn tortillas, but that's just me. Go sniff one next spring and see what you think. It doesn't take a lot of water. It's a tough little dude. It is a little messy because it does have fruit. It will drop it. Some critters do eat it in town, so you'll have possums and that kind of thing. They'll come eat it. You don't want to plant it where the fruit falling off is going to be a problem because it can start to rot and make alcohol. I had that problem. I had 2 of them. So that was one thing I learned the hard way. But it is a good specimen tree. And if you plant it with red buds, they bloom at the same time and they really are pretty together. The chinkapin oak, this is a white oak, so it's not as prone to the oak disease. That's mine in front of my house last fall. It had really nice fall color. Doesn't always, but I wanted to get a picture to prove that it can. It gets fairly good sized, has really large leaves on it, moderate amount of water. For some reason, the acorns seem to be prized by the squirrels. Not sure why, but they do like them. But anyway, it does attract butterflies, birds, small mammals, and hummingbirds. The lacy oak, this one is hard to find. We are going to have it. So if you want a small oak tree, it is a white oak. So again, it's resistant to oak wilt. It doesn't get very tall, 20 to 50 feet, depending on where you plant it. But it's a good tree for the city because it doesn't get real big. That's one of the problems I'm having with my chinkapin. I don't have a real big yard and it's getting big. My neighbor's tree is doing the same thing. We just had the arborist out to trim it because it was coming at mine. This one won't do that. It's a much smaller tree. So this is really, thank you, Lisa. She found this. So this is a real find for us. The Mexican buckeye, this, if you'll notice, it grows in a lot of different places. It's a small tree. It's usually multi-trunked. It has lovely pink blooms on it, and it has enormous seeds. You'll see that down at the bottom. Diane gave me a couple this spring that she had found. I planted them, and I have a little bush about that high. So they are fairly easy to sprout. I just stuck it in the ground. It has fragrant flowers and it attracts butterflies. However, the foliage and the seeds are toxic. You don't want to eat them. I don't think that's a problem. Possum haw. This is my possum haw in the backyard 2 years ago, and it was absolutely wonderful. This thing has a mind of its own. It doesn't get large, about 20 feet, but I'll tell you what, the birds love those berries, especially cedar waxwings, who can strip that tree in a morning. They eat that many, but it is lovely. It's a nice tree when it has its leaves on it, but it's really spectacular when they fall off and you can see all those red berries. Only the female tree has berries. So when you buy one, I would recommend you buy it in the fall and you see if it's got berries on it. There is a difference in the flowers, but it's fairly subtle. So berries are much more obvious. So if you're after one, buy it in the fall. The flame leaf sumac, this is pretty dependable fall color. And the color, this thing is possessed. The color is a bright red. It is really attractive. They will make, they spread by underground rhizomes and roots, and so they can make a pretty good size clump which if you like it and you put it where you want it, out away from everything else, is fine. Because come fall and those leaves turn red, it is spectacular. They do down at the bottom, you'll see that's their seeds that they produce in the fall. And so the birds enjoy that. So it's a good bird tree also. It blooms in July and August. They're white blooms, and then they look like this when they go to seed. It's pretty low water usage. You see it out in the country a lot. It is lovely. You would want to plant it toward the back of your landscape because it will take over. The retama, this is another very fast growing tree. It has these yellow blooms on it. And this is another one that I learned the hard way. You don't want to plant it around sidewalks or where people are going to walk because it drops those blooms. It has very long, skinny leaves. It drops them a lot and it makes a mess. If you've got it in the middle of your yard or if it's in the middle of a flower bed, that doesn't make any difference. But if it's where you're walking, it will. So this one is great, but not where you walk and not around you. However, it's got thorns, some pretty bad ones. So you don't want to mess with it. Trimming it is an adventure, I found out. But it does attract pollinators and birds. It has a very light shade, so you can plant plants underneath it. So if you did put it in a flower bed, you can have other plants under it that would take part sun. Shrubs. American Beautyberry. This one is in my backyard. It doesn't look nearly that good right now. It is suffering from our heat and drought, and I have watered it some. It is deciduous, and so those leaves will turn yellow in the fall. And then when they fall off, all you see are those magenta berries, which are just gorgeous. They won't last long because the birds will eat them. They love them. They'll go for it. But this will grow in the shade. It's a nice arching, it's a soft shape. It really does like moisture, and it likes a rich soil, which is unusual for most of our native plants. But it has the good color in the fall and the berries in the winter, and you will be feeding the wildlife. And by the way, these are edible for us. I understand you can make jelly out of them. I've never had it. I did try one, and it was kind of like, meh. So, the Barbados cherry. This is another one that does produce fruit that you can eat. It's very high in vitamin C. I talked to a guy that did a lot of this. He ate off the land, and he said, yeah, they don't taste too good, but if you put them in a smoothie, they're great. So if you want to do that kind of thing. It is a semi-evergreen. It will keep its leaves in the winter unless it gets below 25 degrees. And at that point, it's beginning to get iffy. And for Snowmageddon, mine completely defoliated and froze down to their roots, but they came back. So it is tougher than you think. It is from the southern Texas plains and the Gulf Coast prairies, which don't tend to get that cold, but these are survivors. So I was very pleased. Mockingbirds will thank you. They love those red berries. And the flowers, the little pink flowers, are fragrant. So you get lots of bees. So it's good for the wildlife. Cenizo. I am not calling it Texas sage because it's not. It's not a sage. And people think, oh, it's a sage. No, it is not. It is leucophyllum. Cenizo is the Spanish name for it. It is evergreen. It's also called barometer plant because oftentimes if you get a rain, doesn't take much, it will bloom. Sometimes they'll bloom before the rain. I have never had one do that, but I've had people tell me they will. It's very low water, very low water. So it doesn't take much to make it happy. And the worst thing you can do is water it and fertilize it. It won't like that. In fact, I had one when I lived in Schertz that was on my property line. My next door neighbor liked really soft, cushy carpet grass. He watered it a lot, and I lost my cenizos. They look terrible. So don't fertilize or overwater. That's how you can kill them. Black dahlia. This is a tall ground cover. It is a semi-evergreen shrub. Most winters it will keep its leaves. It also tends to to bloom, these little lavender blooms in the midst of summer when it's so hot. And there it is blooming. And of course, all of the pollinators really do appreciate that. It's adaptable to most soils. It's not terribly picky. Mine is growing in the hell strip where you've got really crummy soil. It's mulched with crushed granite, and it seems to love it because that's my plant. That's the picture there. If you overwater it, it gets leggy and not very pretty. So you can save a lot of water with this one. It does attract butterflies and bumblebees. It's very helpful for the native and the bumblebees. Bumblebees are having a problem. The blue shrub sage, it's not a sage. This one really is. It's a salvia or Majorana. Blue is a hard color to come by in many of our natives, and this one is a blue one. It's from the Edwards, the Gulf Coast prairies and marshes, and the southern Texas plains, so a little more southern. It wants sun to partial shade. It can get from 2 to 6 feet tall, depending on where you have it located. And it prefers shallow, rocky, sandy, gravelly, or limestone slopes. So it wants drainage, low water use, good for around here. It attracts butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds, and it's a refuge for small mammals. So it's good for what is around. You can grow it with Cenizo. Cenizo doesn't take much water. This would be a nice companion plant with it, or Wahil, which also doesn't take much. Cressida, our fragrant mist flower. This one is like butterfly crack, I swear. It can get really big, really big. 6 feet or better, 6 to 8 feet wide. But when it blooms in October, it covers itself in blue clusters of flowers. And this picture was in my backyard several years ago. You can't see the little bitty pollinators in this picture, but they were there. So all kinds of pollinators love this thing. Now, the beauty is it will freeze back and you can cut it down to the ground and start all over again. So you don't have to watch this thing just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because it is basically from the Gulf Coast prairies and marshes. So it's real big around Brownsville. In fact, they consider it invasive. It is a native. So it's an aggressive plant down there. It will put out lots of babies. That's why we have several in the plant sale. They came up in my pots. The birds will eat the seeds. They're kind of feathery seeds in the winter. And then whenever it starts to warm up, cut it back and you'll start all over again. Esperanza are yellow bells. This is the true native, and you'll see it's not very tall. The native one, max 6 feet, usually more like 5. And you'll see in the picture down on the right, the leaves are smaller and the blooms are smaller than what they normally have in the nurseries. And the reason is that's the tropical Esperanza that they sell. And why? I don't know. These things come up with no problem. They're not hard to grow. We will have seeds because I've got a bush full of them. It is more cold tolerant. It's not as big. If you get the tropical one, it can go over the top of your house. I've cut them back several times because they really get big. It's a good replacement for crepe myrtle because it blooms a lot in clusters during the summer. It's not fussy. Once you get it going, you can back off. In fact, I bought mine, which is in my backyard, on the very first field trip that this chapter ever had. We went to Medina Nursery, and that's where I got my Esperanza. I knew that they knew the native, and sure enough, it is. So this is a really good one. The evergreen sumac. This is an evergreen. There are not a whole lot of evergreen native plants. It will grow in sun or part shade. I took that literally and I planted mine where it doesn't get a whole lot of sun, and I wish I hadn't. It is growing. It's gotten really big, but it's leggy. And it doesn't look like this one in the picture that is full. So I think if you get one, I would go for more sun than I would shade. It's low water use once established. In the fall, it's when you get a cold front come through, the foliage will get kind of a magenta cast to it. It's kind of interesting. It blooms in the fall and it sets a droop, which is a dark red. Only the females do this. This is another one that's only the females will. And I happened to get one, sheer accident. The birds love it. And in fact, I've seen monarchs on the blooms. So, monarchs will go to anything that has nectar. So it's a good plant for hedges because it is evergreen, or a windbreak if you need one. The Eve's necklace is related to the mountain laurel. It is deciduous. It's not evergreen like the mountain laurel. It'll grow in sun or part shade. In fact, I've seen them growing as a filler under taller trees. I think at the Wildflower Center, that's how they have them planted. It gets about 15 to 20 feet tall, very low water use. Once you get it going, it doesn't need a lot. It does need well-drained soil, like many of our natives. They won't put up with wet feet. The flowers, which you see here, they're pinkish with white. They are fragrant. And then it puts on these beads, thus Eve's necklace. You'll see the picture down at the bottom, the black line, those are the seeds. And it's a necklace, so it's really very pretty. However, seeds are poisonous, just like mountain laurel, so don't eat them. Flame acanthus. This picture was at the HEB on 46 when it first got started. Those are not there anymore. They took them out after a relatively short period of time, which I thought was a shame, but I think people were walking on them. So, yeah. It is deciduous. It's called the desert, what was it? The desert honeysuckle or something like that. It's a long tubular flower. So the hummers like it. It needs good drainage, not much water. Once you get it established, it'll bloom from June to October or later if it's still warm. You can hedge it, which is what they did here at HEB, or you could put it in a large patio pot and put it on your patio if you want to do that. So it would work. And you can see down here the flowers, the long tubular flowers. Fragrant mimosa. The warning on this one, it's got thorns. So you don't want to plant it close to any walkway or where there's going to be people around a lot. But if you want to keep people out, this would do it. It's pretty effective. It would be good for a rock garden because it really does not want much water. It will cover itself in these things. You see the individual blooms up at the top, little puffy blooms in the spring. So they are lovely, but you do want to leave it alone. It's got thorns on it and they mean it. So you could grow it with Blackfoot daisy, Damianita, Xexminia, any of those. They would all want about the same thing. Globe mallow, this was mine. Unfortunately, I got too much shade and it didn't like it. It really does want the full sun. They do get large, but they are just lovely. They are evergreen. There's a gray leaf. Mine, it says 5 feet. I think mine was closer to 6. You can kind of judge off the windows. It needs a well-drained soil. Mine was clay with a little bit of rock left over from when they put the addition on my house. Didn't seem to mind that. It can either be red, pink, or orange flowers. Mine were more the orange, which I liked. And they will bloom from June to October. So you'll get butterflies, and it's a special value for your native bees. Texas kidneywood. Mine has just finished a big flush of bloom. I wish I knew what's going on. They have very fragrant flowers when they're in full bloom and you get down with them. It's not something that's going to knock you in the face. It's very subtle, but it's very sweet and nice. They do want full sun. They prefer dryness, so mine's real happy right now. I haven't watered it. It will bloom from spring to fall, especially if they get a rain that kind of brings it on. It is a butterfly host, although I've never seen caterpillars on mine, so I don't know. But it's a good substitute for the Australian bottle brush, which is not a native plant. Lindheimer senna, which is in bloom right now. In fact, that very bunch is in bloom in my yard. It's deciduous, blooms in the fall, low water use, very easy to get along with. It's very non-demanding. It attracts butterflies and bees. It is a larval host for some butterflies. The birds will eat the seeds, and again, special value to bumblebees, which need all the help they can get. These come up easily. I have them in an area that is mulched with the crushed granite. Everything comes up in crushed granite. I have lots of these babies, many of which are going to be in the sale. The prairie sage or the white sage. This is an artemisia. There are a lot of artemisias. This is one. This one gets fairly tall, 3 feet. It can be used as a ground cover, but you would need a really large area if you were going to use it. It's very low water use, very drought tolerant. It has, you can see the leaves are kind of whitish gray. That anytime you see a gray leaf, that means it is very low water usage. That's one of the things, and especially if they're hairy. This is not something you would use in a small yard. It's pretty large, so you'd need some area to put this in. It's not particularly crazy about having to have one kind of soil. It's adaptable. And in fact, it can become leggy if it's in really good soil. So probably caliche would be fine for it. And it's a nesting material for native bees. They use its leaves. The rock rose or rose pavonia, this is a workhorse. It is easy to grow, it blooms, it is not demanding, gets about 4 feet tall, más o menos. The little flowers only open one at a time for one day, but if you look at the stems, there are buds lined up. By every leaf, there is also a flower bud. So they're always in bloom. It wants sun. It'll take a little bit of shade, but it won't bloom quite as much. Low water use, well-drained soil, kind of the same thing we're hearing. It blooms April to November. It can put up with a lot of heat. I had one that I planted next to my driveway that got full west sun, and that little sucker just bloomed right on. It didn't care a bit. The only problem it can have, if it doesn't have good wind circulation, it can get mildew. So wherever you put it, it needs to have some wind circulation so that it doesn't do that. Texas lantana. Guys, this is the only one that's native, this color right here. The pink and cream is not native. And for years, I thought it was because that's what my grandmother grew, but it is not. It is from the West Indies. And it is the one that they have used to do all the hybridizing, where you have all the different colors. And what really gives me heartburn is that now they have done a hybrid that is this color. So you can no longer go by the color of the flower. It might be and it might not be a native. It's low water use, poor soil. The worst thing you can do is treat it good. It likes to be left alone. Benign neglect. The leaves can cause a skin rash. When I work with mine, I wear long sleeves. And the berries are toxic for us. Birds can eat them, but we can't. So don't. Turk's cap. This is a survivor, and it can be aggressive. It's deciduous. It can grow in sun, part shade, or shade. Doesn't care. It will affect how big the leaves are. If it's in the sun, the leaves will be smaller. If it's in the shade, the leaves will be bigger. So you can make up your mind. You can even cut this down with the string line and make it a ground cover. Very, very adaptable. It's a good nectar source for bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. And I've got a picture there. It's one of my few hummingbird pictures. Drinking from the hips that are produced as the seed are edible for people. Not very good, but you can eat it if you want to. So, make jam, lots of sugar. Yeah, okay. All right, go back. There we go. The velvet leaf mallow. This is a semi-evergreen perennial. It depends on how cold it gets. If it gets really cold, it will drop all of its leaves. Or if it gets really dry, mine are beginning to drop them, and it's from not enough water. It wants part shade, which is kind of unusual. Large, real fuzzy, soft leaves. It'll get 5 to 6 feet, although I've got one in my backyard that's approaching 7 to 8. It's up there. Large heart-shaped, the velvet leaves, it attracts butterflies. It's a good nectar source for them. And it's good to combine with plants like white mist flower, lantana, or big muley, all of which don't need a whole lot of water, and this doesn't either. The white mist flower, look at the picture. This was out by my shed a couple of years ago. You can't see the little bitty pollinators. I couldn't get them in the picture, but you can see the butterflies. And you can tell the butterflies really, really liked it. It's white mist flower or shrubby boneset. It goes by both names. Semi-evergreen, depending on how cold it gets, can get up to 6 feet tall. This one was approaching that you see in the picture. And at least 5 feet wide. Sun, part shade, low to medium water, pretty drought tolerant. The flowers are fragrant, and it's good for the edge of a woodland where your trees or the drip line is there. These could be right in that area. Perennials. Autumn sage or Gregg sage. This is evergreen. Gets 2 to 3 feet tall, low water use, needs well-drained soil like many of ours. Blooms March to November. It is highly, highly hybridized. That's why there are so many colors of it. In fact, I asked our state botanist what was the original color, and he wasn't quite sure. He thought it was red or the real bright pink. He wasn't sure. So I know we always have them, but we probably ought to quit because they're all hybrids, and we really don't need to promote that idea. But it is a good replacement for the invasive Nandina. Get rid of something even worse. The black-eyed Susan, I have 3 different pictures here because every one of these is a black-eyed Susan. Their flowers are not necessarily the same. And these all came from the Wildflower Center. They had all been authenticated by them. I find this very interesting. It can be an annual, a biennial, or a perennial, depends on the weather, mainly water. If it gets rain. Can get up to 3 feet tall, full sun. It prefers moist soils, so it's going to want a little more water. And these different flowers are all from the same basic plant, is what I'm told. And I'm taking this from our NIPSOT database, and it is a larval host for some butterflies. Blackfoot daisy. This is one that we tend to kill because we're too good to it. It basically wants to be ignored. Put it in crummy soil, water it to get it started, and leave it alone. No fertilizer, no mulch, crummy soil. It loves caliche. One of my landscaper friends told me that, and I went, seriously? And she said, yes. So I tried it, and she was right. Does not like that rich soil. And it thrives on neglect. So it's one of these, plant it, get it started, forget it. Great plant. Cedar sage grows under cedars. That's why it has that name. It's semi-evergreen. Again, depends on how cold it gets. It'll grow in part to full shade, like under an ash juniper. Well-drained soil, doesn't use a whole lot of water. It has one of the prettiest red blooms, a clear crimson red. It's really pretty. And you can eat the flowers if you're so inclined. If you plant it where there are a lot of fallen leaves, you probably won't get any babies coming up. You'd have to rake the leaves away so that their seeds could get to the soil. Chili patine or chili pekin. I've heard both. I grew up with patine. It is a deciduous perennial. It has really hot peppers. So if you like really hot peppers, this is for you. It's also called bird pepper because the birds love it. And I am told that you can't just take the seed and plant them. They have to go through a bird first. I have a lot of them in my yard because I started out with several and the birds all clean them off. So I have a lot. Anyway, it's effective in mass plantings and it is edible, but they are hot, really hot. Coast germander, this is a new one for us. About 3 feet tall. You see down here at the bottom, the white blooms on it. It blooms and flushes. It prefers dry sand, but it will grow in clay. Mine's growing in clay. I gave some to my daughter in Corpus and she was growing hers in clay. So it does work. Um, they bloom summer and fall. Mine has just finished a whole bloom. They come up, they scatter their seeds and they come up really easily, which is one of the reasons we have them in the sale. In fact, oftentimes they grow adjacent to prickly pear. That tells you how tough they are. The common wild petunia, this was the year of the petunia. It did fabulous. It was just gorgeous. Doesn't always do that, but it is a survivor. And I'm finding that in the really dry areas with a little bit of shade, this is a winner. I have tried any number of things in my yard, and this one is succeeding. It will throw seeds, so you'll get more. They come up on their own, not very particular. They don't care where they're growing. And I'm told that you can even mow them if you want to use them, in your lawn, and they will still come up and bloom. It freely reseeds, so you'll have a lot more, which is fine with me. Damianita. This is evergreen. Again, not many evergreens around here. But this one is great for rock gardens because it likes it dry and gravelly and crummy soil. That's what it wants. It's very drought tolerant, obviously, but it does require excellent drainage. It will not tolerate wet feet. It will croak pretty fast. It'll do a flush, a really heavy flush, like in these pictures in the spring. And then it will bloom, but not this much if it gets a good rain. So you really enjoy it, but it's evergreen. It's always green there. So don't plant it in good soil. Don't fertilize it. Don't water it once you get it established. Benign neglect is the word of the day. And obviously it likes to grow where Blackfoot daisy and Calliophis grow. The foliage is very aromatic, and so it tends to be fairly deer resistant. And you will notice I'm not giving deer resistance on these because it's just too variable. Different herds have a different palate. So the fall aster, boy, when this blooms, it is spectacular. It's a fall bloomer, obviously, fall. It likes well-drained soil, doesn't use a whole lot of water. It will bloom in September through November. If it's getting rather large in the spring, you can cut it back by about 1/3 to 1/2. Don't do it anytime past June because then it will decrease the amount of flowers you get. But they send out long arching arms. And if they have done it too much, if it's been a wet spring, you can cut them back and you will still have a good display. It attracts butterflies and bees and is special for native bees. The fall obedient plant, this one gets really tall. It can get up to 5 feet if it gets lots of water. It does want a lot of water, medium to high, and it wants a very humus-rich soil, which cuts out a lot of us because we have soil that isn't. It does spread pretty aggressively by stolons. You can pull it out fairly easily, but it does move out. The hummingbirds and the butterflies like it, and it's called obedient. Often wondered why. Because if you turn the flower, it will stay. So they're kind of a square looking, you can rotate them a little and it will stay like that. It is obedient. Just find that interesting. The false foxglove. This is one that planted itself in the hell strip in my yard. It has done beautifully. It does not get very much care. They're only about 2 feet tall. They're not huge, but they have enormous blooms on them in the spring. It's a medium water user, although this one usually gets a little less. It attracts butterflies, moths, hummingbirds, and bees. And what's really interesting, these are really large flowers, and the bumblebees really like it. So you will walk by and all you see is a bumblebee butt sticking out of the flower. It's really cool. I've tried to get a picture and I never got it. They fly away too soon. Four-nerve daisy or Hymenopsis. This is a survivor. It stays very, very low. If it gets a foot tall, that's amazing. Usually they're shorter than that. It's sun to part sun, dry, well-drained soils. This is good for the hill strip where you don't want to do much. Mine is mulched with the granite, which it seems to like a lot. It will attract butterflies, the smaller ones, and bees. This is another good one if you do a rock garden. You would be very happy there. Frostweed. This one, if you see at the upper corner, that's a picture of why it's called frostweed, because at the first killing frost, the stem will split and then the little liquid inside comes out in a very, very thin sheet and forms all kinds of interesting, sometimes they're curly. It just kind of depends on how it comes out of the stem. But it's only good on the first freeze. After that, it's done. But that's why it's called frostweed. This will grow in part shade or shade. So again, a plant not hot. It's hard to find the good shade plants. It also gets large, up to 6 feet. Now, if it's getting really, really big by July, you can cut it in half and you will still have blooms. I did it this year and I didn't water it, and I'm not sure I'm going to have any blooms. So beware. It spreads easily, it can form colonies by seed or by rhizomes, and it's a really good pollinator plant. And the suggestion was if you have a larger piece of land and you're transitioning from a more formal landscape to a more informal, this would be a good transition plant. Gay feather or liatris. The Liatris punctata is ours for this area. There are several others, but this is the one that does best here. Gets about 3 feet tall. Starts blooming in August. Nothing blooms in August. And so all the pollinators really appreciate it. It wants dry, gravelly soil. One of the problems if you're growing it in clay, which I am, if we've had rain, it keeps its roots a little too wet, and so it grows and grows and grows, and it will start to make swirls and whatever. It looks weird. It kind of crawls along the ground. I tried cutting them back. Don't do that. Just plant it where it's not going to get too much water. It will freely reseed. They're little seeds that float around, and the birds will eat those seeds in the winter. They're kind of fuzzy looking. Greg's Mistflower. This one's butterfly crack. They love it. Especially the queens, and you'll see some in these pictures. This was at the hummingbird garden at the park. It's a deciduous perennial. It spreads by rhizomes. And if you'll notice, one of the areas it grows in is the wetland and a riparian area, which tells you something about the amount of water it wants. I have found that if you have it in full sun, where it does bloom best, if we're not getting rain, you need to give it a little more or it starts to die back. So one of those things you have to be aware of. But it's a great plant. It's kind of this lovely apple green all the time. That's not new foliage. That's its color. The heartleaf hibiscus, this is the one that I have killed repeatedly. I know, this is my challenge. I'm going to try it one more time. It's a deciduous perennial. It prefers well-drained sand, loam, gravelly limestone, caliche. You'd think it'd be great in this area. Low to medium water. The red flowers are just gorgeous. They really are. It is in the hibiscus family. It's not cold hardy below 20 degrees. So if we're going to have bad weather and it's going to get that cold, you do need to cover it. It attracts butterflies and hummingbirds, and you could grow it in a pot if you have to. You could pull the pot inside. The Hinckley columbine, this is a semi-evergreen perennial. It actually comes from the mountains out in West Texas in one particular canyon, I understand, but it has gotten into the nursery trade, and so it's out there and we're buying it now. It really does like rich, well-drained, moist soil. It takes a little more water. Part shade to shade. It really doesn't like too much sun. It does reseed freely, and I have mine mulched, but even with the mulch, it comes up, and it will attract hummingbirds and moths for pollinators. It's really pretty. I found out from a nurseryman, it will get red spiders in the summer if it gets really dry. And the way you take care of it, you just whack it off about that far from the ground and let it resprout. Voila, no red spiders. It works. I was doubtful, but it works. Land sleeve coreopsis, this is an evergreen perennial. It gets about 2 feet tall. It can grow in sun or part shade, medium water. It grows in clumps and they will, kind of move out and get bigger. It self-seeds and it attracts butterflies. It is a short-lived perennial, so you want it to keep throwing those seeds out there, so you keep it. Maximilian sunflower. I love this plant. It is tough, but it is one you plant it and forget it. Do not water it. Do not fertilize it, or it'll get 15 feet tall. It grows. But when they bloom and you see them in the fall out in the pastures, the clumps of them, they are just exquisite. It can get up to 10 feet tall. And you'll notice in this picture, some of them are kind of doing this number because they will flop over. And if you overwater them, what you do is you get a tall, weak plant that's going to flop. I have learned to put mine at the back against a fence. I've even run lightweight string or rope in front of them about yay high up to keep them from doing this number. But they do attract a lot of the pollinators, and they are a special value to the native bees, but very, very pretty. Just don't do anything kind to it. Mealy blue sage. This one is one of my favorites. It doesn't get all that tall, about 3 feet, just goes out, gets wider and wider. It grows almost anywhere. It's not picky about its soil. If you give it too much water, or if it rains too much, it will flop. So I've got little things that I put around it to hold it up so that it's upright all the time. And the beauty of it is the flowers will attract the pollinators, but when it goes to seed, you're going to get the little birds like the finches. They will strip those seeds. They love them. So you'll see this with all of the salvias. They like those seeds. The plateau goldeneye or the tooth leaf goldeneye, this is a fall bloomer. It should be coming into bloom soon. It's a deciduous perennial. It prefers partial to dappled shade. It will get bigger there if you grow it in the sun. I happened to do accidentally an experiment. I had one in full sun and I had one in dappled shade. The one in full sun only got about 3 feet tall. It bloomed, but it was low. The one in the dappled shade, 6 feet tall. Gorgeous. So do plant it where it gets some shade. It needs it. It will grow, but it won't be as pretty. It blooms in the fall. It's a great one for the butterfly migration, and it provides cover for birds. It reseeds readily. You'll get a lot of them, but that's okay. You can put them in the plant sale. Prairie goldenrod. This is a better behaved one. It doesn't get that large. And goldenrod has gotten a really bad rap because everybody says, oh, it causes allergies. No, it does not. Its pollen is so heavy, it can't become wind blown. But the reason you're getting the allergies the same time this is blooming is because of ragweed, which does have very fine pollen and does blow. So don't blame it on this plant. This is a better behaved one. It's only about 2 feet tall. It blooms like this. It's very attractive and easy to work with, and I'm glad we've got this. It goes with the gay feather and the autumn sage very nicely. Coneflower gets about 3 feet, full to dappled shade, full shade to dapple shade. Doesn't want any, wait a minute, I'm going to bring my next up.
You get your hot cocoa.
Huh? It's a medium water user. It does want a little more than most. This is one you want to leave in place when it finishes blooming. It will drop those petals and you will end up with the cone. That's full of seeds and the birds will come and eat them. So you want to leave those in place. And actually, they're attractive when they go into the fall and the winter. They're still there. They're pretty sturdy. The red columbine, this one is a semi-evergreen. It's, I don't have this on a timer. That's what I'm wondering about. It likes full shade to dapple shade. However, the one that you see in this picture right here gets full sun until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it does fine. So obviously it can take more sun than the books say. It doesn't want particularly rich soil, and it blooms February. When Snowmageddon hit us, mine was in bud, and I figured, kiss those flowers goodbye. No, they bloomed. They came through and bloomed. So this is a really tough plant. If it gets really hot and dry, it will go dormant, which mine are about to do, and I'm crossing my fingers that that's true. The square bud primrose are the sundrops. This is a very low water use. It prefers sandy or rocky soil, so it's really good for Edwards Plateau. And it's good for rock gardens. It's very non-demanding, so plant it with your Blackfoot and your Damianita. All right, the tall goldenrod. Now this one can become aggressive. It has the rhizomes that will go out and you will have it going everywhere. So if you grow this, put it to the back of the garden where it's got all the shorter stuff is in front of it, because it does get tall. It can get to 7 feet. And be ready to control it, because it will send out those rhizomes and just keep moving out and get bigger. But when they bloom, they are gorgeous, and the pollinators do love them. So, and again, it's not the one causing the allergies, it's the ragweed, which blooms at the same time. The Texas aster or Drummond's aster, this has not been a good year for this plant. It's just not doing much. It is an evergreen because it blooms like this. This is the fall bloom at my house several years ago. That part dies back, but it goes down to just a little rosette, and it stays like that all winter. And then as the weather warms, it will start to go up. Sometimes they will bloom in the spring. You don't know. I think it's basically we get a little more rain. It'll do that. And the flowers can be either this pale blue or they can be white. It just depends. Texas betony. This is a nice little ground cover, and a friend of mine just told me she has it out in her hell strip. She said it tends to kind of flop. She went in and whacked it, and it's the prettiest little plant you've ever seen. So you can cut this back if you don't want it sprawling. You can cut it back, and it will do well and look good. It's good for hummingbirds and butterflies, and you can do it for a shade ground cover. Tropical sage or scarlet sage, again, semi-evergreen perennial, depends on the temperatures. These freely reseed. I have them all over my yard. But everything loves it. All the pollinators love it. The hummingbirds love it. And then when it goes to seed, then the little birds love it. So this is really a good plant. Easy to grow, very easy to grow. White aster or heath aster, when it blooms, like here, it's gorgeous. It's just solid white. It can be kind of rangy and not the most gorgeous plant when it's not in bloom, so you have to be able to put up with it. Mine is out in the hell strip. It does well in the hell strip, but right now it's not doing too great. It's too dry and I haven't watered it. But on good years, it's really lovely and easy to grow. Wild bee balm. This is a Monarda. I'm sure if you've heard of Monarda, that's the bees love it. And this is our native. It does take a bit more water, and it likes well-drained and rich soils. I planted mine in what used to be my vegetable garden, and it has done well because that was good soil that I brought in. It attracts bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. You could combine it with tropical sage, Texas lantana, or Mexican hat. They would all be happy together. The wine cup, this is the perennial one. There is an annual one. We're not selling it. This is the perennial. It's more of a vine. So you could grow it in a hanging basket or use it as a ground cover. It's a medium water use, but it does form a huge, kind of like a potato underneath. Many of our plants do this, and that's its water reservoir that will be there when it gets really dry. So it may go dormant, but it won't be dead. So this is one to really enjoy. woolly ironweed. This is the first time we've had this one. I've had it for a while. I got it at Ladybird. It's ironweed is, yeah, it's pretty tough. This is the well-behaved one. It's the Lindheimeri, and it will get about 30 inches tall, and it puts on these purple blooms in clusters. Um, it doesn't at the other ironweed that we have here gets really large and it's pretty aggressive. It sends out rhizomes after 4 or 5 years and it makes a mess. So you probably want to avoid that one. It's called woolly because the undersides of the leaves are fuzzy, where it gets the woolly name. Sexminia, this is one of those. It's pretty much bulletproof. Uh, it likes well-drained soil, doesn't like a lot of water. It blooms from May to November, so it's in bloom a lot and it attracts lots of butterflies. It's just a tough plant. The leaves are kind of rough, which means the deer don't particularly like it. They will eat it, but I think they have to be really hungry. Vines, we're moving on. Coral honeysuckle, this is a semi-evergreen perennial vine, which has these long, lovely orange flowers, which means that the hummers love it. It also, when it goes to seed, it's a black seed that the birds eat, so it will take care of birds for you. The one thing you need to know about this one, it has to have good air circulation because if it doesn't, it gets powdery mildew and it will eventually kill it. I found that out the hard way. I thought I had the perfect spot and I did not. This is another one that is of special value to bumblebees. The passion flower, this is the one we had a little kerfuffle over. The one that we'd been selling, we thought was a native, and it has been decided it is not. It is from Central America. So if you have the one with the little round things that come after the flowers, if they turn red, please pull it up and get rid of it. We're selling the right one this time. I know that a certain person thought hers was defective because the little things didn't turn red, but she had the right one. This is the one. Yeah. So we will have that. It is the larval host for the Gulf fritillary butterfly. You'll see them all over it. Crossvine, it puts out this gorgeous bloom in this picture in the spring. It will bloom on and off, sort of, during the rest of the year. But this first bloom is so spectacular, it's worth it for that. It is an evergreen vine, so you always have the green leaves. It does need something to climb on. It won't support itself. Hummingbirds and butterflies really love this. The Lindheimer's Morning Glory. This one can be a vine and it can climb, but it also, like in this picture, will be on the ground. It just kind of crawls around on the ground. It is a beautiful blue. It's really unusual. It likes dry, well-drained soil, and Edwards Plateau is one of the places it grows in, so it will do well. But they are lovely. They do tend to be a little bit short-lived. I had a lovely one for 2 years that was gorgeous, and then it was gone. The pearl or green milkweed vine. This one,
15 minutes. Library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you need to get a library card, please use the help desk at this time. Thank you.
okay, moving on. Purple passion flower. This one is pretty large. It has a green called a maypop. And again, you'll get the Gulf fritillaries on it. The birds will eat the fruit, and I'm told it is also edible if you want to eat it. The purple leatherleaf vine. It's a cute little bell-shaped flower that's upside down, which means that the hummers like it because they can stick their little beak up in there and get the nectar and also pollinate it. It is more cold hardy than the other leather flowers, if that's a concern. Scarlet pea. This makes a nice ground cover. It just kind of crawls in amongst the other things. And it has these lovely little flowers that they call scarlet. I would call them not scarlet. But they are pretty. It's more of a coral. It really is. But it's pretty and it's easy to grow. And it will seed out and you'll find it everywhere. The snapdragon vine, this looks delicate. It's not. It doesn't get real big. It has these cute little flowers on it that look like snapdragons. It's not related at all. And it freely reseeds. If you have one, you're going to have more because they seem to get around your yard. But again, you can put them in the plant sale. Grasses, the blue grama grass or the eyelash grass. This is very short. It's one of the shortest. Prefers well-drained soil, not much water. Gravelly soils is one of its favorites, so that would be good in this area. And it's a good replacement for Bermuda grass. The pink muley or the Gulf muley, this picture was taken at my daughter's house in Austin. We put this in as a drift and it became a showstopper. All of her neighbors stop and go, "What is that? And where can I get it?" She has it mulched with crushed granite and it comes up freely in that. In fact, we have sold a lot of her seedlings in our plant sales because it does come up a lot. It is gorgeous. It blooms at the fall and it provides cover for birds and also nesting materials. It is an evergreen, so you don't want to whack it off like that. You want to pull out the dead ones with a rake. So this is one of those. Don't do what the landscaping companies do. Yellow Indian grass. You can see this at Headwaters. They have a pretty good stand of this. So if you want to see it, in situ, it's there. It puts up these gorgeous golden yellow blooms in August and September. And then it gets more of a rusty orange as it matures. It gets fairly tall. It can get up to 8 feet if it has plenty of water. And it's a good accent plant if you want something, a grass, as a specimen plant. Inland sea oats, this is a grass that grows in the shade. It's really very pretty. It's one of those that it doesn't take much wind at all to make it move. So you always have movement in your garden with these seed heads that are, falling over. They start out green and then they turn brown about this time of the year. It prefers moist soils, but it doesn't have to. Mine don't get it right now, and they're doing okay. They're not real happy, but they're growing. That is determined. Ground covers. Greg's Dahlia. This is a very low water use ground cover. It likes the gravelly soil. It's cold tolerant. It has little purple blooms on it, little tiny ones you see on the inset. Which is where I have mine growing. Frog fruit, everybody knows frog fruit. Semi-evergreen perennial ground cover, has the cute little teeny tiny flowers on it, which are great for the teeny tiny insects and butterflies. And it is a larval host for several butterflies. Really tough little plant. Wants sun or more sun than part shade. Heartleaf skullcap. This is an interesting one because it doesn't like the heat. So it will come up in the fall and it will grow. And then as it comes into spring, it will put on these blue flowers. But the minute it gets really hot, it goes, "I'm out of here." And it goes dormant. I think we're done. It is so strange. All right, let me see if I can, come on, go, 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 go. And it did, it went dormant. This thing is haunted. We're nearly done. Come on.
The screen up there.
It's not showing. Well, maybe they cut it off. I don't know. All right, just quickly, we're almost done. Horse herb or straggler daisy. I think everybody is familiar with that one. It comes up everywhere. You don't have to plant it. You've got it. But it does make a nice lawn, and this picture is in my backyard. That's not what it looks like right now because I haven't watered it, but it is pretty tough. The lyre leaf sage is another ground cover for shade, and it doesn't take a great deal of water. It has the blue flowers.
Keep going.
Okay. The pigeonberry or the rouge plant, this one, the leaves and the fruit are toxic, so don't play with them. But I was talking to one of our members, Catherine King, and she said they called it rouge plant because they take the berries and rub it on their cheeks when they were kids. And they had rouge. Okay. The birds like this plant and it gets fairly tall. It reseeds freely in crushed granite. Now it's not moving. Okay, moving right along. Or not. It's not moving. We're nearly done. The last one, I believe, is snake herb.
The mouse to click on it. Probably the top, yeah. I'll scroll down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Snake herb, it has blue flowers on it. It spreads by rhizomes. It is a nice little bit taller ground cover. Not particularly hard to grow. We have two more. The woolly stomodia is a semi-evergreen perennial. It likes sun. It has little light lavender flowers on it during the summer. It can be poisonous if you have livestock. I don't know that many of us have that issue. And the last one, American Century plant. I think most of you know about this one. It's an evergreen. It gets 6 feet tall or more, but when it sends up that bloom stalk, it gets even taller, and that's when it dies. It says sayonara, but it has pups around it or babies that come, and you can grow those. That's it, folks. Okay.
Will you be posting a copy of that
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, the slide
yes.
video.
slideshow?
Okay.
Well, you can just take the actual program, load that. Okay.
Because the website link says that the list is under resources.
There is a list, but this particular program is not. You have to go to resources. It's hard to find. I fought trying to, yeah.